in you hear the term cancel culture a lot from the right wing in the United States. And the claim from the right wing in the United States is that progressives and the left wing Democrats are trying to cancel their culture, as if meaning they're trying to erase history and the rest of the stuff. And nothing could be further from the truth. And I find it so hypocritical and so proudly ignorant for the right wing of the United States to claim that their culture is being canceled, when in fact, this is the real fact. The right wing, mainly white supremacists and European Christians, is exactly what they did, and they've been trying to do for a very long time. Not trying, have actually been successful at it, to erase and cancel the historical facts and the achievements of non-European descended American people. If you pay attention to the facts, the historical facts of what European Christians did when they invaded the American continent, my European ancestors, the Spaniards and the Portuguese, I have Spaniard and Portuguese blood in me, they basically invaded, attacked. They didn't discover anything. There were millions of people already living here for thousands of years. My Native American ancestors were living in the present Caribbean, the present United States of America. I have ancestry from Florida and Native Americans, and they were related to my Caribbean Native American ancestors. And the first thing that the European Christians did when they invaded was to destroy the culture and commit genocide and steal the land. And basically, when you destroy and you kill off a population, the estimates of the genocide range in the millions of the Native American peoples at the hands of the European Christians. Not only when you kill those people, you basically kill their history because of the nature of the historical progression of it. Because most of the Native American historical account was passed on by the elders through oral communication through their descendants. So you kill off a generation and that history gets canceled, eliminated, erased, which is what the right wing is claiming now that the left is doing, and it's not true. That's not true. What the left is trying to do is correct the historical record to basically tell the truth of what actually happened about, with the invasion of the United States. Before it was the United States, it was called Turtle Island by my Native American ancestors, and the culture and all the historical facts of what happened. And they want to include, the left wants to include the historical facts of the Native Americans and the enslaved Africans that got kidnapped in Africa and traded and sold into slavery, and whose culture was destroyed by the sword. Because in case you didn't know, you were not allowed to practice your religion. That's where Santeria, if you don't know anything about Santeria was developed in the Caribbean as a response to the pressures of my Spaniard ancestors. When the Spaniard ancestors brought the enslaved Africans to the Caribbean, they forbid them to practice their religion, which was back then Yoruba, the Yoruba religion. In case you don't know, Yoruba religion has a pantheon of gods. One of them, by the way, in case you follow popular pop culture, one of them is represented in the X-Men movies, and Halle Berry plays that character. If you pay attention to what they call her Storm, but her ancestral name is Ororo. The correct way to pronunciate that is Ororo. Ororo. Ororo was one of the goddess of the Orishas, of the pantheon of gods of the Yoruba or Lukumi religion, which evolved into what today is Santeria. Santeria. So my Native American, my African ancestors, when they were enslaved in the Caribbean, Spaniard ancestor did not allow them to practice their Yoruba religion, and they forced them under threat of death to practice Christianity, their Catholic faith. You know, and that's why I laugh when you see all this, the Christian people talking trash about how violent the Muslim religion is, and how it has been spread through warfare and death. Well, guess what? So has Christianity. It is historically accurate to say that Christianity was spread through genocide and forced conversion and of Native American children to go and evangelize them. God damn it. So I don't know why it keeps doing that. My YouTube always does that. I've uploaded, I'll make a video on that. Maybe you guys can help me. So going back to the Yoruba religion that my African ancestors practiced, when they were enslaved in the Caribbean, their Spaniard slave owners, slave masters, and enslavers, they forbid them under threat of death to practice their African religion. So Africans, my African ancestors say, okay, we'll practice your Catholic religion. But what they really did was name their Orisha pantheon, or the gods of the Orisha religion, and behind virgins and saints. For example, Yemaya is one of the gods of the Yoruba religion. Yemaya, I believe, is La Virgen de Regla. It's a virgin. So they took that virgin, the figure of the virgin, the paintings or whatever it was that the Spaniards forced them to worship under the Christians. These were Christian people. The Christians forced them under threat of death to worship their Catholic and Christian gods or deities. So they say, okay, I'll worship your virgin. But really, they say, okay, we're going to worship that virgin, but we're going to name that virgin in ourselves, in our circles. We all going to know that we're worshiping Yemaya. There was another one called Ochun. Ochun was the virgin, La Virgen de la Caridad del Cobre. It's a virgin that has to do with copper. So, Ochun, Chango. There's, I believe, I'm trying to remember who Chango was. They named Chango after. The Chango is the god of lightning, one of the gods of lightning. So you see, the cancel culture argument is asinine. By the cancel culture being espoused by white people today is the most asinine. Asinine means extremely idiotic. You know, is the most asinine statement I see, and it's quite hypocritical because not only did their ancestors or my ancestors actually did cancel the culture of my African and Native American, they wiped them off. They left very little of survivors, very few survivors, and then banished them to barren lands, in what amounts to a concentration camp. So this business of cancel culture being espoused by this white supremacist Republican Christians is laughable. No one is trying to erase the facts about the actual factual history of European Christians and their descendants in the United States. No, they're trying to correct it to include the reality of what actually happened. There was no, Captain Smith, had a love affair with Pocahontas. No, he, stole and raped her, and, there was no, nice Thanksgiving dinner with the natives. It was a bunch of people that Europeans cutting the heads off of Native Americans and sticking them in poles and playing soccer with their heads on public squares. It was massacres ordered by Abraham Lincoln right after he signed the Emancipation Proclamation, him ordering to, massacre Native Americans to stop them from protesting and fighting for their native land. It's about including the fact that George Washington was a slave owner and had about 300 slaves. And corroborate me if I'm telling you. If I'm not telling you the truth, please go do your research. It's about saying the truth about Andrew Jackson. He was a genocidal, racist, mass murdering monster. And yes, he was president of the United States. By the way, happens to be Donald Trump's greatest hero. You see? So we're not trying to cancel anybody's culture. We're trying to include the people that have personally been, wiped out of the history of the United States of America, So this business about, you're trying to cancel me, and nobody's trying to cancel you. We're trying to tell the truth. We're trying to tell the truth about what happened. We're trying to tell the truth about Harriet Tubman being a hero, an absolute badass fucking fighter that freed a bunch of people from slavery and rape and murder. No, what you're trying to do is to perpetuate the whitewashing and the white supremacist narrative that the Europeans were, children of gods and they were, the biggest gift to civilization, to human civilization. No, they're a mass murdering mob, and they were Christian, So what the reality behind this argument of the right wing is that they don't want the truth to be included in history. They want their racist, white supremacist, European Christian descendants of European Christians to continue to be worshipped. And I mean, look at what they're trying to do. They're trying to continue to worship and venerate traitors, the Confederate generals and Confederate monuments on public lands. And they're saying, you're trying to erase history. Nobody's trying to erase history. We're trying to put it in the right context. Okay, fantastic. You want to keep those monuments in place? Okay, go ahead and let's write exactly what that person that you're worshiping. Robert E. Lee, the Confederate hero. He was a traitor and a racist, a completely mass murdering asshole who advocated and ordered the torture of the enslaved humans he had under his command. Look at his writings. It's horrendous. This guy's a white supremacist, Nazi piece of shit. A fascist asshole. So. You're not convincing anybody but yourselves of those lies. You want only the good parts of the monsters that you worship to be put down in history. It's not going to happen. Eventually, everybody who you're worshiping that's a racist asshole with the information age, it's coming out. And you don't have a right to use public lands to honor you know, the horrendous acts of my European ancestors. It's at least just give you a little, data, a piece of data. My ancestors, my Spanish ancestors, used to hunt my Native American ancestors with dogs trained to hunt humans. They went as far as building statues and writing poems to the most prolific dog that killed so many of my Native American ancestors. His name was Becerrillo, or like a calf. He was as big as a calf, a huge a Spanish mastiff that was trained to murder and hunt and dismember Native American, my Native American ancestors. So, are you trying to tell me that because that is historical fact, we're going to name our schools after the dog that massacred my Native American ancestors? Is that what you're trying to say? Because then hey, that's what you're trying to say when you say, we can't, no, we're going to teach our children, hey, your ancestors did this shit, and this is how they treated your other ancestors, and no, you don't have to behave like they did. And that was a wrong thing to do. And we're going to put it in the books. But we're certainly not going to name schools after them. We're certainly not going to name fucking, erect statues of people who perpetrated those atrocities. So Christopher Columbus, he was a horrendous human being. He was so bad that his own the European people who settled in the Caribbean, they saw the atrocities that he was committing against my Native American ancestors, and they themselves arrested him, performed a civilian arrest, put him in chains, put his ass on a boat back to Spain with an indictment, and told the king, this guy is a monster. The first people who go after monsters were decent European people. Okay? So why don't we venerate the decent ones, the ones who actually did great things, and why do we have to have busts and write only nice things and venerate and worship the monsters that represented my ancestral people from Europe? Why do we have to do that? I mean, what part of that is canceling history? That is reality, and we want to write it just like that. Factual evidence. I'm not going to, sugarcoat a turd. It's a turd with sugar. It's still shit. So nobody's canceling. We're just showing what shit is.